Everybody, welcome back to Mondays with Mark. It's Monday, and I'm Mark. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. In case you missed last week's video, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that way you always get the notifications when I do post new videos every Monday. But if you missed last week's video, I went through the process in my experience of buying my first home here in London a few years ago. And this week, I'm going to kind of continue on with that trend, and I'm going to talk about 5 things that I think every person should know and be aware of before they buy their first home, and a couple of them are things that I wish I knew before I bought my first home. So hopefully, if you're in the market looking for your first home, or if you've just bought your first home, I would love to hear if there's anything that I didn't mention in this video. Please feel free to add it in the comments, and I'll add it into a future video once there gets to be enough. So without further ado, let's get into 5 things that you should know before you buy your first home. So the first and foremost is one that I'm sure everybody knows, but I think it's worth mentioning here. Budget wisely. You're excited about buying your first home. You've just got your pre-approval in hand, and you're ready to get out there, and guns blazing, and just see every property that's on the market. But you want to make sure that you take a moment to slow down and just really go over the finances. Make sure that your monthly mortgage payment, as well as any additional expenses, your car payment, internet, cell phones, all that stuff, is still within your overall budget to make sure you don't run into any financial stress down the road. And take into consideration some other things that do go along with buying a home, such as closing costs, property taxes, and insurance for the home, of course. So just always want to make sure that you have a sound budget and that you stick to that budget and really, really try your best not to go over it and overextend yourself. Okay, the second is a home inspection. This is a big one. Of course, I did actually a whole video on the importance of home inspections. Make sure if you want, you can go back and check that out. It's in the playlist. But you always want to make sure that you're shelling out however much it costs, typically between $400 to $500 for a home inspection. They're just so invaluable. I can't even get into it right now in this short video. As I mentioned, I've made a previous video about it, but they're going to highlight any issues that they could potentially see with the home, even though it may look perfect to your eyes or the untrained eye. Uh, a professional who's really going to get in there and check things that you wouldn't even think about checking. I've seen several home inspections, and almost every time they check something, I'm like, I never would have thought to check that. So it's definitely worth the value, and to have that peace of mind that your first home is not going to turn into what we call a money pit and just continually generate problems for you and your family. The third is location, and this is one that I wish that I really had paid a little bit more attention to when we bought our first home. But when you're buying a house, again, it's easy to get caught up in the features, aesthetics, everything about the property itself. But you really want to make sure that you're paying equal attention to the neighborhood and the surrounding area around the home. For example, if you rely heavily on public transportation, you want to make sure that the home you're buying is going to be accessible to major public transportation hubs. If shopping centers, all kinds of all the amenities that you use in your day to day, you want to make sure that they're around. But even further than that, and this is where my experience comes in, as I mentioned in my last video, my wife and I, we bought our home in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic and the lockdown. And at the time, we thought, oh my God, living beside a major street is just such a convenience. We can walk our dog. It's right there for us whenever we need to leave. This is a great thing. And then the world opened up again, and we realized that living beside a really busy street does have some pretty significant disadvantages. And while we do love our home and almost everything about it, if there was one thing that I could change, it would be our proximity to that busy street. So, just things that you want to keep in mind when you are looking for your home, and make sure that you give them their proper consideration. The fourth is you want to make sure that you're planning for the future. I know buying a home can be an emotional, in the moment decision. A lot of clients that I work with do say they offered on homes and purchased their homes strictly based on feelings that they had when they walked in. And while that is completely fine, and a very powerful way to make sure that the home you're buying is the right home for you, you also want to think long term, right? Like if you're a young couple that's got a child on the way, and you're planning to continue to grow your family over the next few years, you want to make sure that the home you're buying is going to be able to accommodate that growth of your family. If you're possibly relocating because of work, then you want to make sure that you're not tied down by buying a home that's not convenient to where you will be working. So these are all things about the future that you want to consider when you are making a decision to buy a home. It is a significant investment, of course. And the last thing we want to see anybody do is buy a home and then have to quickly turn around and sell it because that home no longer fits your needs. We want to make sure that you're in there and you can enjoy it for as long as you choose to enjoy it before you move on. And the last and arguably one of the more important tips is to work with a realtor. You want to make sure that you're working with somebody you know, you trust, and that somebody that has your best interests in mind. The real estate process, buying a home, can be a pretty daunting and intimidating thing to take on. So having a professional to walk you through, guide you, and explain everything while in real time while you're going through it is just so invaluable and is always recommended. And a good agent is going to listen to what you need and your preferences, and then that is going to save you time. And by them weeding out properties that may not fit your lifestyle, your budget, or what you're looking for. So overall, working with a realtor can just really save you time, money, and stress when you're looking for not only your first home, but any home. And on that note, if you are thinking about buying your first home, or you have any other real estate needs, that's exactly why we should meet. My information is always attached to my channel, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, all that good stuff. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with you to see how me and my team can help you and your family realize your real estate dreams. But thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure you stay tuned and again, subscribe and turn on that notification so you make sure that you don't ever miss another Mondays with Mark. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday.